All right, guys, this is the episode we've all been waiting for of Go Bold or Go Home, as we have finally made it. So last week of the regular season, which also means it was the last week for trades, had a very quiet day of the trade deadline, but we do know this weekend was insanity on the trade deadline. So we will be getting into all that. I will start this episode off, Stephen, before we go any further. I feel like just looking at Dan Campbell's face here just sums up my emotions today. As you can see at the bottom, that's me currently, but at the top, that's me at probably 11:30 today, because I was working on some mega trade deal, and I know you had a part of it too. So that was unfortunate. And for everyone else wondering, no, it wasn't Dylan, it was Aaron. I was working with Aaron, and it would have involved one of his keepers, would have involved my first round draft pick and a couple other picks and a couple picks from him. And let's just say the mega deal never happened because there was confusion about if it was a noon deadline or a midnight deadline. And I will let you guys figure out the rest there.
So. That's right. I am super excited for the trade review. We're gonna look back, hindsight 2020. Are you looking like the happy Dan Campbell? Are you looking like the losing 10 weeks in a row Dan Campbell? We'll take a look.
All right, here we go. So this is gonna be more Stephen. Stephen has been amazing because it's not a Stephen video without some computer algorithm calculating everything. So what's going on?
All right. So this has been something that we've debated all years. How the heck do we actually value the picks? So I found a study done by the Ringer on the percentage that you hit on a pick, like getting a top player. What's the percentage of that happening? As you see, it's pretty likely at the first, it drops a little bit on the second, and so on. It goes all the way through 15 rounds of data, which is too much for me. I just got the numbers and copy and pasted it in. But and we compared that to the dynasty rankings, because I guess a keeper league is more like a dynasty league and kind of projects what you're looking at for next year. So it's going to take the giving pick, which is, the overall goes off our study done by this group here on the right. And then if we have a player trade, we use their dynasty ranking to get the position, and it will return a value. So, and look, I put your trade up here.
I just realized
in case you want to know what it was. There it is. Bum, bum. I told you I'd get you.
So everyone admire this beautiful trade I was about to make to get Zeke.
The trade that could have been.
Could have been. It would have been amazing.
Should have been. It should have been.
Tears, I'm sorry to give you guys a quiet day. I just looked for a trade to make it loud, but all right, well, without further ado, we're gonna get into that. So 1 second here while we switch over. So yep, here we are. Look at some of these trades going from top to bottom as we see at the beginning, and there's going to be some in there that in hindsight is definitely 2020, and I have no idea how those trades happened.
This is going to set a record for the longest video, isn't it?
Oh no, we'll keep it moving. Well, starting off, we'll just keep a few comments as we go through. I mean, me and Stephen, first trade of the year. I still think it was a balanced trade. It does have me winning it. Your problem was just the Russell Wilson aspect really hurt you more than me getting DJ Moore cooling off. But I will say DJ Moore is still put up some points. He's just inconsistent. Joe Burrow, though, has been a steal on that trade.
Yeah, I mean, if Russ was healthy all year, this is probably looks like just about an even trade, because maybe Russ is like quarterback 14 or something, It's like just like a 5-for-5 swap. But as you see, quick note on that, we have some numbers at the top for a guide for what the numbers say who won and lost. Everything is kind of subjective though, because the numbers there's a little bit of some of the player positionings are a little bit questionable, I think, and we will discuss those as well when applicable. I don't see any big issues with the first one, but yeah,
Well,
you straight up won this trade though.
this is the one, yeah. And now this is the one I mentioned in the group where, you know, everyone that did hate on him, which includes me, hating on Dylan for his, which we'll get into that later, the BS of that CMC trade. But here's one where Dylan got fleeced by James, who doesn't trade often, but James is a shark when he trades, is what I've learned from this this week of analysis.
I know that was I came to the same conclusion that not to play spoiler to what's ahead, but yeah, this was one of those that I think just didn't age very well. He kind of overpaid at the time, but it's also like now he got injured and his positions dropped down to 47, and just it's one of the more unbalanced trades of the year.
And to keep in mind, everyone, these trade numbers are technically, so like this is a second round pick.
Right.
You just got to do the 3 in your head. So it's a second and a 4th round pick, all plus Ronald Jones for Montgomery, who's RB27. So yeah, you could say Dylan overpaid on that, and it shows in the value. But at the same time, we'll get in later why he's not concerned about that. Moving on, speaking of Dylan, we got me getting Josh Jacobs, but T. Higgins, I probably should have kept him. Higgins went off. I figured this was right around when Burrow and Chase were balling out of their minds. So I kind of was like, oh, Higgins is going to be forgotten about now. And that was a mistake.
Yeah, for sure. I think hindsight, Dylan actually won that trade, even though it's really just kind of, that one's closer than it looks, though.
It is. I mean, Josh Jacobs with the injuries and everything has been a mess, but oh well. All right, Colton. Now here's another mega trade that we had was Colton getting Javonte Williams, which at the time was like, okay, it's whatever. And he got his 5th round pick. But Jake getting a 2nd round pick and Rondale Moore was pretty, I mean, really it's the 2nd round pick. That's what it was about.
Yeah, I bet Colton is going to look back at this video, see this trade again, and just is going to curl in embarrassment. I think he's going to be super frustrated that he didn't get more for a guy that's going to be probably a keeper next year. Let's be honest.
I mean, Javonte Williams has looked really good, and that's helped Jake out a lot throughout the year. So that definitely.
Props to Jake for finding that early value before that shot up the board there.
Oh yeah, 100%. And then you got a couple minor trades, guys, as we see Dylan and Ben here. Pretty even. Kareem Hunt, Cordell Patterson. It's kind of balanced out. Hunt's injury, but Cordell's also missed some time, and he's more of a hit or miss with that Falcons offense.
Yeah, that one's got a little asterisk next to it because the dynasty rankings weren't so kind to Cordell Patterson. And I thought maybe he would re-sign with the Falcons, and maybe it's not a fluke. So I adjusted for that just a little bit because it was like basically like saying he was like a 14th rounder or something next year.
Hey, a fluke is the most common fish in the sea.
Yeah, if you go fishing, you just might catch one.
Yep.
We're gonna get copyrighted, are we? Demonetized. That's the word.
No, we're good. So we got Colton here, James again. James winning another trade. You're going to see this, guys. It's insane. But just looking at that, you got J.K. Dobbins, which you're like, okay, for a 2nd round pick, but that's a solid keeper for James to only give up a late 2nd. So well done there. Colton, I guess, had his other keepers in mind. So
yeah, that was before the Ridley deal. So I wonder if, again, this is one of those where Colton's going to be going, I wish I kept him. I wish I kept him.
You know, hindsight will always be 2022.
As we said. That's right.
Now, here's one I regret. This one, Stephen has been waiting for, I'm sure. At this time, I was undefeated. Henry was balling out. Jones was he was doing good. Don't get me wrong. He was getting like 12 or 13 points a week. But I also he was my flex player, and I was in there. I have Diggs Moore, who was balling out at this time as well, and Cooper. I don't really need Jones. Let me get what I can. So as you can see, I went for a first round pick and all that. But in hindsight, it would have been nice to keep Jones after Henry went down. So that hurt. Any comments? Let's let it rip. Hurt me.
I think that this was one of your worst trades of the year. I think we might get down to one that's worse potentially, but I think this one was the one that set you back, especially with the Henry injury as well. You just didn't get maybe you could have pushed for some higher picks. I don't know, or maybe had him take one of his off and it would have probably balanced. But
I think my hindsight is I should have waited closer to the deadline. That's what I'll say. And I think that's my advice to a lot of people after, thinking about it, is we all started making trades a little early. Probably want to let it ride out a bit more and see what you need to trade, what happens injury-wise. Because I think it was only 2 weeks after this trade that Henry went down. Had I known that was coming, I would have definitely kept Jones. And I almost traded for Jones today from Stephen, but
no, you did. I had no idea.
I thought about it, but then I went for the Zeke trade, and because I didn't want to, me being selfish, I definitely didn't want to make myself look like a fool going and getting the guy right back. But speaking about looking like a fool and being selfish, that is our plug for today. So this plug, I know it's interesting. There's not actually going to be an outside sponsor for this video because it's coming from me because I'm selfish. So we were talking today about our Wheel Unfortunate for our bottom loser. And that is why I'm extending the invite that once the season ends to do a live video of whoever ends up in last place coming to spin the wheel. I got a giant prize wheel that will have all the unfortunate things on it. Now, this is where I need everyone's help, is I do not have every spot filled. I only have about half, which means we need some more ideas. So hit me up with your best, worst ideas, and let's see how unfortunate someone's going to be this year. That will be the plug. All right, moving forward, Stephen and Colton, very even trade. It still shocks me that they say this is even when you trade away 2 top 15 running backs and, for Kamara, who's one top number 15 running back, and they say it's even. So I don't know how that happened, if you want to explain.
That it's because there's 2 things. This is one that I can test as being even versus uneven. I think Aaron Jones is valued a little low at 30. Like I don't think he's gonna be a mid-3rd round pick next year. That doesn't seem right to me. Maybe he's gonna be kind of later second, I think. Maybe 24 or 25 range. I don't know. And then also Henderson is valued too high, though. Way too high. I don't see him going 57 next year.
I think a lot of people forget, though, that Cam Akers is coming back to the Rams.
Exactly. That's why I don't think he's going to be that high next year.
So
which
that
is
would be interesting.
Foreshadowing what a trade I made at the end, at pretty close to the deadline here. But
yes,
that was a really nearsighted move by me. That it was on purpose. I still think Jones could be an RB1 player.
It made you one of the top teams for a few weeks there.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed being the team to beat for 3 weeks.
Until Jake and Dylan got to their trades later. And then, of course, there's me also. I feel like all my best trades came against you. All my worst trades were with other people, but my best trades were with you.
just because I want to help you out, Nolan. You're just so lovable.
Oh, thank you. It definitely has nothing to do with you having terrible lucks taking quarterbacks from me.
But hey, I could potentially still get a 4th rounder for Gaskin instead of a 5th.
You could, but I could also still potentially get a 4th rounder for Derek Carr. He's not far off from his either. So Derek Carr, QB 14. He's got an easy second half of the schedule. Just saying, it's doable. But yeah, moving on, I will say. Then there's this one. This one also, I definitely overpaid, but this was also when I started panicking. So I definitely panicked. This was the week Henry got hurt, and I was freaking out. So I was like, any way I could get a running back. Oh, Ben has Chase Edmonds. And at this time, Chase Edmonds was healthy, and he had just had a pretty solid game, and he gets a lot of targets in the receiving game. So I was like, I could probably get him. And I was like, Josh Jacobs, who had just became hurt, if everyone remembers that, he got hurt again. I was like, I'll give up Josh Jacobs, who's not even playing right now. Jerry Jeudy, who also was on the IR designated to return for, I basically just said Ben, Chase Edmonds, and whoever you want to throw in there. And I got the pick. So the 4th round pick. So I felt that was, or was it 3rd round, whatever, 6.12 transfers to. But yeah, I thought it was fair at the time. And then, of course, Chase Edmonds got hurt, and it was a terrible idea.
I don't think this one is as bad as it looks because Jeudy is just not good this year. I had to adjust it because he was in like the 30s or something on the dynasty rankings. Like they must be really high on Jerry Jeudy, which Sutton get a new deal, so he's still going to be there.
Yeah, they were just high on him. I think health assumed, but him coming back from his injury has not been great.
Yeah, no, and so I think that one, it's a little closer than it looks, but yeah, you definitely, I think Ben won this one for sure. Even if you factor in that it's a little, numbers aren't making that one look friendly for you.
Yeah, well, again, this was when I was in full panic mode. Now we'll see where Dylan starts making all his steals. And when I saw this, I'm not gonna lie, I don't know what happened on this trade, what's going on, but
you saw me ask about this one. This one, I remember going, what does everybody think about this? Because I thought it was super unbalanced at the time. I was like, how is 2 seconds equal to a mid first? And I know like those mid first, like as you can see, position 4.06 isn't really position 31 on the board. Like I've adjusted for that already, but because that's one for people that aren't in our league, that's pick 1.06. That's so there's a lot of good people that don't get left on our teams, and people go like you can get some crazy good value in the first 4th round or whatever it is. So yeah,
I will say this in defense of Dylan on this is, I can see where the debate can be had that 2 seconds and Khalil Herbert can be worth a first in a defense because it's a defense, whatever. But I mean, I can see it argued both ways to where there's no middle. It's like it's one or the other. It just depends what you're looking at. Because if you trust your drafting ability, like if I trusted my drafting ability, I would be happy with 2 seconds instead of the mid first. I don't trust my drafting strategy all the time, so I definitely personally will go for first at a higher value.
Yeah, I think that's part of this trade definitely reeks of the Cooper Cup disease. Where everyone now thinks the second round is where you find all the value just because I managed to do really well there. That's something I don't believe in, which I know a lot of people were trading into rounds they were good in the last draft. I don't believe in that. I'm just trying to move up as high as I can.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to see that at the end of for our end of season rankings or whatever. I just want as much points as possible, increase percentage. I'm not trying to get into a specific round like some other people are. And you'll see that in some of the trades because they
Oh, yeah. It's interesting as we get into the last few weeks here. Now, looking over here, speaking of you, got you making a trade for late draft pick and Sam Darnold. You were desperate for quarterbacks all year, man. Like,
hear me out. I won this trade.
all
I won
right.
this trade. LaVisca's on the waiver wire. Sam Darnold's on the waiver wire, but I got an 11th rounder. I won this trade.
You won this trade. You know what?
No one wins this trade, but if someone won it, I did. The numbers are lying.
It's a 2.8 to a 9.2 on the value. So
I got a pick for taking Sam Darnold, I guess.
It's like there was an NBA trade. I can't remember the details, but it legit, like, they actually put I think it was like $500 as part of the trade, like as a trade compensation.
Like
Which,
when we
to
were
us is a big deal, but to a NBA franchise, it's just like, all
it's
right.
like when we were negotiating the Gaskin deal that we didn't go through because I went with a different trade.
Oh, with the
we were
beer.
like, oh yeah, I'll just buy you I'll get
Buy
you
me
a
a
beer
drink,
next time you go to the truck yard or whatever,
Exactly.
Same deal.
Now looking at me, here we go again, another one of my trades. Now this one I do like it, and numbers do favor me. This one is just banking on future potential. But I think it was a good time to go and get CEH while he was still injured and coming back, and going in for just a third round, and Javonte Booker once Sparkly came back. I think that was pretty, like, it's still balanced because I am giving up a third rounder, which helps Jake out. But at the same time, CH could potentially develop into a keeper because he did have a couple 100-yard games before he got hurt. He just needs to find the end zone more.
Yeah, we'll see how the end of the season works out for that because he's splitting duties with Darrell Williams, who stepped up while he was gone. But I still think that he'll get it too. This score up there would probably look different in 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I'm keeping an eye on that more than anything else, just trying to figure out my third keeper situation. So now we got Ben. This is where Jake starts fleecing a few people as well. Ben giving up Jerry Jeudy for Emmanuel Sanders in a draft pick. I know it's the numbers. I don't think it's that far, honestly, apart when you think about it, because Jeudy hasn't exploded that much. But I do think Judy's going to get a lot of targets more than Emmanuel Sanders will.
Yeah, I think this was one of those. Judy's been hurt for a while. He had like 2 bad weeks when he got back, and he was probably tired of Jeudy and just wanted to get rid of him. And then, but also like, yeah, Sanders literally has a 0 value. Obviously, he has some value, I suppose, but basically it's saying at that point you might as well have just picked up a guy on free agency and not made that trade, which is something that I wish I did on one of my trades down at the bottom that we'll get to. But
Interesting.
All
right, and then here we go. The trade of the year, as I've been saying to everyone, Dylan getting Jonathan Taylor, just stupid. Mainly I say that because I'm pretty sure this is the week I had to play Dylan, and he got Jonathan Taylor right before.
Just so he
just
Thanks,
smashed my face. Yeah, he was not. He wanted to make sure he made a statement.
Thank you, Dylan, for winding up Dylan all year and making him pull this number on us that we're going to deal with for years to come.
Look, it'll be fine.
This one might last it though.
He only gets to keep 3 people, so first round draft picks, get ready to steal some of those guys. But I will say, Mark Andrews, pretty, he's a hit or miss tight end. It just depends how the Ravens look that week, because Lamar sometimes has stinkers and sometimes plays well. Khalil Herbert, again, he's just existing in that Bears offense. There's that whole offense is a mess.
Yeah,
But 2 second rounders, that was the big thing he gave up. But
I think that
again,
kind of makes sense. If Clint didn't give the fourth, it's actually pretty balanced. Now personally, I'd probably still not do it just because, I
Jonathan
believe
Taylor.
that some of these guys that are producing like this are just like on a whole nother like tier that are untradeable, but that's a personal opinion. But it would have been, it isn't the most unbalanced trade that we've seen here.
It
So
was
hear
the
me out on that.
biggest trade, the
But
best trade. But I will say, yeah, definitely not the most unbalanced trade we have seen.
like if we had a veto, I would have actually not vetoed this one.
Oh, no, not at all. In
No.
fact, I would even say, again, it comes down to how you view those second rounds versus first rounds
Mm-hmm.
in that sense. Because, I mean, if Clint's in there thinking, I like having multiple second round picks because that's a good round, then, I mean, that's a good trade. But at the same time, I agree with you. Either, the most I would have given up as a pick in return would have been like a 10th round pick on this, just as like a little nudge to get it over the line. Because I'm pretty sure Jonathan Taylor is worth the 2 seconds, alone, plus Khalil Herbert, and then maybe throw in a
Yeah.
little light
This
pick
was
in
like
there.
right before Jonathan Taylor went like absolutely nuclear this year.
Yeah,
So
Jonathan
Dylan
Taylor.
bought at like the perfect time, and it makes it look worse. But
It didn't help. Not at all.
that was a
No,
really smart move. That was probably one of the moves of the year,
definitely.
we'll say.
So this this one's surprising me because it's one of the bigger trades, because most of the ones that have been spot even on here have been small trades because those are easier. This one was like a big trade that actually was calculated perfectly with Montgomery, Kareem Hunt in fifth going for a second, a fourth, and Sutton. That was actually almost perfect balance.
Right. This one was weird though, because like I see why Dylan did it, because he wanted to get the picks back from all the ones he gave up on the Taylor trade and the Montgomery trade this year.
Why did Ben do it?
still question why Ben did it.
I mean,
We'll never know the answer to that one.
He does get Hunt, which is, running back help. And he also gets Montgomery as running back help. But did he need the running back help? That was more.
He already had Patterson, so it was like he already had good running backs.
And he probably could have just gotten one of them, but
he had Jacobs too. So I was like, why did he get both? If I had to guess, he was trying to flip one, but just he couldn't get anybody to bite.
Well, don't worry. According to the numbers, we've all been yelling at the wrong person for the most lopsided trade. And I think my favorite part about that is I forgot this trade existed until I saw it. And I don't know how Colton and Jake how Colton was able to hide this one away and no one ripped into him for it, because the dude gave up James Conner and the 11th round, last round of the draft pick, was able to get a third and a fifth. And Jordan Love's Jordan Love, but he's just whatever.
that was a player trade so he didn't drop him to free agency.
Right, but a third and a fifth for James Conner. I know James Conner has had some games where he's gone off, but he also has had weeks where he posts 5 points.
He sold James Conner here at the highest peak ever. That was after the 3 touchdown game against John alone.
Yep, when Colt McCoy was starting and they weren't passing the ball, they were we're just going to run it the entire game.
I also think
Chase Edmonds is back.
That 108's a little low as well. I think if I remember correctly, Connor's on a 1-year deal, and I think that's kind of why it's so low.
It is, because we don't know where he's going to go. It'll be interesting to see. And also be interesting to see, now that Chase Edmonds is back in the mix, how his usage remains. But as you can see, there's even if we adjusted it to how we feel, Colton still will win this trade handedly somehow. Then of course he turned around and just did a draft pick trade. It's boring, so we could just kind of skip that. It's pretty even, honestly. Now we got Stephen and Colton. Y'all pretty balanced. Jacoby Myers, TJ Hawkinson, and I don't know why you gave up a second to get a TJ Hawkinson when you probably could have gotten a tight end just like a step below for cheaper. That's my personal.
Now, okay, I got an okay value. Like technically, value-wise, I'm okay. I thought potentially I could keep him. I don't have to worry about tight ends ever again. This is also the same week I picked up Pat Freiermuth. So I really regretted making this trade. I was like, if I could have just played him, it would have just been.
You would have been fine. Yeah. Yep. That's why I say you always pick up the tight end.
Yeah.
You'll be okay. And then, of course, you turned around, traded Fant, the Jake for Tua, because, again, you love your quarterbacks.
It's been a struggle this year.
It really has.
Last year. It's a permanent struggle, apparently.
Yeah. You're basically like the New York Jets. You can't get the quarterback situation right.
No. Damn you, Carson Wentz.
All right. Well, now we're going to get into the last few trades we've seen in the last few weeks here. So we got Dylan and Jake. This one also is pretty lopsided. Again, Jake kind of fleeced Dylan. So this is where I was explaining earlier. I believe in law of averages, both in fantasy and in life. Because, for example, on football, the law of averages, you could have like a bad week, like a defense 1 week could have no turnovers, give up a ton of points. But if they were going into that week by the middle of this NFL season, if they went into that week as like a top 5 defense, I'm not too concerned at that point because law of averages, they're going to get back and still average whatever that points allowed was. Same with offenses. If the offense is scoring 30 something points on week average, and then they have 1 week where they put up 17, I'm sure they're going to have another week where they're going to put up 40 something. So in this instance, looking at Dylan and Jake, we've seen Dylan get some good trades in there, but then we have things like this where he gets Chuba Hubbard, who it's all right, but it's on the Panthers offense, which has been just a mess without McCaffrey.
What's actually really funny about this trade is this was a pick swap. This was a pick swap they did for Sutton. Like Dylan is basically giving away Sutton, and then Jake's like, "Oh, I need to get rid of one roster spot. Christian McCaffrey's back. I'm going to give up Chuba Hubbard." So Dylan takes him and drops Chuba Hubbard, and now that enabled Andre to go get him, who now has a perfect handcuff for his then keeper running back. And I was just like, if only Dylan kept him, that would his team.
If he kept him, it would have been different. Yeah. But I still think, like, at the same time, Sutton would have been, probably would have been one of those you keep. Especially if you're only going to get 6 in return. And then going down, now we're going to see Dylan. Also, he takes a hit on this trade when he deals with you, as you finally get a good, like, really good trade in there. Well, one where you win handedly, not because all your other trades have been middle ground, like fair, or you're losing value because of a quarterback situation.
Dylan still believes he won this trade.
I mean,
now Smith is not really doing anything for me, so it's like, why did I make it? I could have kept the pick, but value-wise, I won. That's why I did. I was like, the upside's there for the end of the year. We can play it out. Maybe he wins me the toilet bowl or helps me make an upset in the playoffs or something.
I will say it was shocking to me because they passed more, but they just never passed it to him with Minshew in. So, because I know we talked about that. I was like, well, they're going to pass a lot more now that they don't have a running back and a quarterback. And they did. I was right. They just passed it all to the tight end. They just ignored the wide receivers out there.
Yeah, you forget that backup quarterbacks often leach to the tight ends and dump offs, but
Yep.
or so did I. But it ended up not mattering because Mooney also did not do anything.
Yeah, so it would have sucked either way for you.
Yeah.
Now looking in, here we go. We got Aaron trading away Trevor Lawrence and his 7th round pick for Derek Carr. And this is where I kind of disagree. I mean, Trevor Lawrence, I guess this is assuming you're keeping Trevor Lawrence in that dynasty aspect that we're using in our system calculations. And I am notorious for being an anti-quarterback keeper guy because I just think quarterbacks don't drop off value as much out of the top 4 quarterbacks in the league. So I think Derek Carr in a draft pick is pretty good for Aaron to get. But at the same time, I'm not saying it's like Aaron won the trade because, I mean, you do get a higher draft pick than your 10th round. So you move up to the 7th there. And it's giving up a quarterback that you weren't really using. So again, I'm just going to say it's more balanced than it appears.
I agree.
And then, of course, you guys trade immediately again. I don't know why you didn't just combine it all. But
this was actually like a week later or something. Like no one traded in between us. Actually, what happened here, this one, I wanted to group the Christian McCaffrey crap all together. And this one was the leftover, so I just moved it up. It's not what it seems.
Yeah.
Yeah, me and Aaron negotiate a lot, so you know.
Yeah, I do see that, but Mike Davis, I would never even touch Mike Davis. I had him in one of my other fantasy leagues, and I've already actually just dropped him because no one wanted to trade for him, and we don't have a keeper league, so there's no draft picks or anything, so I couldn't even get like a late draft pick. So I was just like, all right, goodbye. So Cordell Patterson's made Mike Davis's career just over. But 3rd round draft pick, that's probably pretty good value to get as well for Darrell Henderson. And Pat Freiermuth, I mean, you might have been able to sneak in up at maybe a late 2nd there, but well done. I think that's a pretty balanced trade, but I still think Darrell Henderson's going to help Aaron a lot this season. So you made him, he's a sneaky contender in our playoffs.
Yep. I hope I gave him I pitched this to him. I was like, you got to go destroy, you got to beat the evil empire. You got to go for it. But Pat Freiermuth, he was kind of hesitant for a 3rd, given it was so late in the year. So I was like, all right, I see Kelsey's on a bye. I'm just going to throw this in to get it over the line. And it got it over the line. I'd rather have the 3rd than a tight end that I don't need because Hawkinson's playing again.
Yeah, that is true. That's a good way to look at it. All right, well, we're about to get into the first head scratcher, but before that, we got Jake and Colton doing the basic pick swaps, and I don't spend much time on when it's just pick swaps because you can kind of get the value yourselves in the idea. So this one's a little, different. 2 picks for 1. It's about right. So here we go. First big head scratcher of the crazy week we had leading up to the deadline. Colton Dillon. I don't know.
I remember my meme I made for this one. I'm just laughing.
The meme for this was the best thing. If you haven't seen it yet, scroll in the group and find it. Oh my God. The whole Dylan turned it on to me about my Stefan Diggs trade we'll get into. Instead, just tries to change the subject, a few days later after this trade, and says I were in the league, and it's like, does anyone remember? And Stephen remembered, thankfully, that this trade is probably spot on fair until Chase Claypool gets put in for no reason whatsoever.
You literally just gifted Claypool.
Yeah, because as you look at it, if you take out Claypool here, you would have about 24 right there, and you'd have 25. So
that's what I argued.
Remember,
I made a big deal about this. I put that meme where it's like, oh yeah, you got to be assertive. Say that you can
Yes, that
tell
one
him
too.
that you can have it, and he gives up Chase Claypool at the end too. Yeah,
Oh
that
man, the
I,
memes for this were great, but
I
I
think
have to say I don't know.
context on this one. I think that Colton knew that Dylan really wanted to get into the fifth for Dylan. That's the round that Dylan thinks is like his best
His round,
round.
his go round.
So he had the leverage and somehow finesse Chase Claypool out of that, which is
I well
impressive because
done,
now Colton
Colton.
can mildly compete as well.
Well done, Colton. That was a trade. That was a great trade somehow. Then we could, of course, follow it up with no offense for Gronk. Interesting decision there. Because Gronk coming back now, yeah, he doesn't have much future value. He's injured all the time, but currently he's balling out, and that's giving him to Jake, who's already a loaded roster. So I think Jake kind of won this trade in my
I
opinion.
think Jake won this one too. Gronk, there's no way Gronk's only worth the one measly point that this thing gives him.
Yeah, I think they just assumed because he's missed so much time. But now here we go. All right. So we got Ben and Dylan, big trade here. Ben giving up Jacobs and Bourne, some picks for Ramondre Stevenson and Booker. But really, it was for the higher draft picks there with the third round and the seventh round. So all in all, it's not too crazy, but Dylan again wins this one, I think.
I guess.
I mean, he gets Josh Jacobs and didn't really give up any running back capital for it. It was just a third round pick after he's already secured all his fifth round and first rounds he wants. And of course, the Stefan Diggs trade, the one that apparently certain people in our league thought was super unbalanced, that actually came out pretty even. Just saying. Giving myself a fourth round pick and an eighth round pick, and all I had to give up was Diggs, who I'm wasn't planning on keeping at the end of the year, for a ninth and 11th round pick. So I think overall, yes, I did technically lose because the only way I could make it work, because no one was really needed. Oh, Sutton. I forgot. I also got Courtland Sutton out of it. So that's high. That's pretty good. But again, it's not like I was dying for a receiver. So I had to force it by giving up some more value there.
Not the worst one. Dylan wants this one to be the worst trade, but
it's definitely not.
Of course, everything is subjective, though. I mean, but because Sutton is not worth that much this season, so it's a little inflated. So it's probably still a little more uneven than it looks. But again, it's not literally the James Conner trade.
Yeah, and I mean, I'll also say this: Diggs, as someone who's had Diggs, yeah, his averages have been okay, but he's been inconsistent this season. Like the Bills have been inconsistent, losing.
You give him some sort of. Can we have the same weather that we had last week? This week, I'm playing Jake, and he needs Diggs to have a good game. So if I could get that weather again, that would be really helpful.
We'll see what happens. All right, now we got Dylan and Andre. Here it is, the CMC trade, the one that was so fair, so fair, as Dylan gives up Mitchell and a second round pick to get probably one of the best running backs who's just injured, but he still is one of the best running backs when he plays, and he gets a second round pick back. So really, he just dropped a few spots in the second round and gave up technically the number 2 running back on the 49ers that's only starting because of an injury.
I had to adjust the value on this one too, because it said McCaffrey was running back 3. I was like, well, at worst, I think he's 14, or he's going to be pick 14. I bet he's still like where Saquon was drafted this year.
Yeah.
Like 9, 10.
The argument that, okay, well, you don't know CMC's injuries. I'm like, that doesn't mean like he's still like a healthy CMC is worth a early first round pick by himself.
Personally, if I was Andre, which, hindsight's always 2020, learning experiences, all that, I would have held on. I would have bit the bullet, been like, yep, I got a hold of CMC this year. I would have flipped him before next season if you had the doubt. Like before week 1, you flip.
Well, it definitely, it boggles my mind. And it's not, again, if I was in Dylan's shoes, yeah, I would 100% accept this trade offer if it came up to me.
Mm-hmm.
So it's more, the target here is Andre. What were you thinking, man? It blinked twice if you were held hostage.
I want to know the sales pitch that was made here. That's got to be incredible.
Yeah, I'm just got to put it this way that, CMC, yes, there's an injury risk. Yes, there's all that mess. But at the same time, when he plays, you're going to win that fantasy week more often than not if he's on your team, because he's going to get you anywhere from 15 to 25 points. And then, of course, turns around and gets James to make a trade. And this is funny because, again, James wins another trade, even though it's a big one. He gave
Great
up a
trade
first.
by James. I love that one.
Yeah, gave his first, but now he has CMC. And this is what's crazy. So you can't tell me that this is a balanced trade when you turn around and sell CMC straight for a first round pick, and there are no first round picks involved here. And Elijah Mitchell is not worth the first round pick.
You could argue that trade is passable if Andre doesn't give the second rounder.
Yes, I would agree.
So again, he's doing a really good job of getting people to tack on picks because there's not a point value associated with those, and he's doing it really well, and then flips him for a first.
It's insane how it's worked. All right, well, now we're getting near the end here. So we got Stephen, you and Dylan again, just doing a couple pick swaps there. Clint coming in mainly for a pick swap, but that Jamal Williams, that was a good trade by you there.
Trying to get the at least.
We had typed up, we had the meme generated for our trade, and then you were like, wait, I could get Jamal Williams for gas money. I was like, all right, that's probably smart. Do it. And finally, we got Jake and Hayden ending it off with the last trade. Such a basic trade, but I kind of love that it's the last one.
Hayden.
It's a defense trade.
Hayden's first trade too.
it was Hayden's first trade. We'll get John next year, I'm sure.
That's a target. We're all just gonna give.
Everyone offered
really
John
good trades just to get him involved.
Make a 16 trade. All right. Well, here we go. We're going to look at our total trade rankings. So how did you guys do? Let's go ahead and start at the top. Yes, James. Oh my God. Dominated the trade market.
Really took advantage of those IR players this year, which is a great strategy when you're down there in the basement like that. Great. Did a great job this year with that.
James, I'm expecting great things next season.
We've been mean to you on the power rankings and pick 'em, but you did a good job this year with the trading.
You get to win one of the podcasts. I'm so proud of you. Then we got Jake. Obviously, he built a super team. When he had drafted well, it was already a middle team. He traded his way into a super team. So
he just came in all friendly, innocently wanting the Broncos, and now he's finessed everybody for value.
Yeah, I'm still waiting. You know what? I demand that this week you follow up on your promise that you were going to put all Broncos players in. That hasn't happened. I don't know.
Oh yeah, no. Great time for that. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, go ahead and do it. It's not like there's any playoff implications.
Even if Melvin Gordon's hurt, you got to play him.
So, and then, of course, Colton right behind him, neck and neck, had some really good picks in there. And this is what I was talking about earlier, though. If you look at this list, the numbers still balance out to where it's just within a couple points. Like
Law
your
of
bottom,
averages.
your bottom group are pretty much identical to your top part of the group in the point differential. And that's just, I mean, it wasn't because of one or two big trades. We did see a couple of those, but it's gone both ways, where we saw some where Dylan just got, fleeced. But then, of course, Dylan, I will say, you ended up at 6, right in the middle pack on the trade market rankings, is impressive by itself, because I think almost all your trades were like someone clearly won, someone clearly lost.
Oh yeah, that's why he's been at the center of like the center of the meme, center of the attentions, because they're just so the trades are grabbing the headlines. That's for sure.
Dylan, I'm starting to think you need to go find out if you're, a half brother to the Kardashians, because you know how to stir up drama. That's all I'm going to say about that. But Aaron, Stephen, Dylan, Hayden, you guys, and I mean, John didn't do anything. So, of course, he's at 0 on the differential. But you guys pretty much got your value locked this season. All your trades were pretty spot on. Stephen, I'm sure you would be a lot higher if you figured out a quarterback situation, but, that's going to be my joke.
Maybe next year. Probably
next year. I hear they got some great young quarterbacks in the draft. You should draft first round.
I got my eye on Spencer Rattler in the 13th.
Oh, no, he's going to stay in college. You got to go for
I know. Yeah.
Desmond Ritter. That'll be a good one right there. No. And then, of course, Ben, Clint, not too crazy, but then you got me and Andre taking up the very bottom, and that's where I know for me, and I haven't looked too much in depth on Andre's bad trades. Well, I think a lot of it comes from Andre's trade where
Andre has one trade.
Yeah,
Clint has 2 trades.
So
which are the Taylor and the McCaffrey trade.
And I think that's going to be, So that's where all that negative comes from.
So definitively, if we had to go on the volume.
I was the worst.
Yeah.
I had seven trades, I believe. And I see none of my trades, though, were like massively bad. They just chipped away.
Yeah, they just slowly ate your number down.
Yep. Mm-hmm. And I would say the big thing would be the Jones injuries hurt me on my trades. They did. I just timed them so poorly where I'd make the trade and then an injury would happen or something would change. And then
I think it's because you lost the leverage in the trades. They keep it even. If people knew you were desperate, you couldn't really lever your way back.
When Henry got hurt,
you had to give a little.
Yeah, when Henry hurt, I was desperate. I was like, anyone have running backs? Please send help. So, all right. Well, that has been this week's episode. And I'm sorry for the long episode, but it was a special. Next week, join us as we recap the regular season, entering the playoffs, talk about our teams going in, and you may even get a bracket from me as I tell you who's going to win it all and who's going to be our wheel spinner at the end of the season.
Who is Nolan going to jinx with takes colder than his room? Because that is one heavy jacket you got on.
It's cold in here, y'all. I'm telling you. Doesn't help I have the fan on, but that's more for aesthetic. So, all right. See you guys next time on Go Bold or Go Home podcast.